on ABC TV and ABC iView.
Tonight, the Prime Minister defends NDIS cuts as states raise concerns about the flow-on effect. Good evening and welcome to ABC News Victoria. I'm Alexandra Alvaro. Also tonight, a firefight brewing over CFA funding. Police make a plea to stop after a teenager is killed in an illegal electric motorbike crash. Remembering musician and broadcaster James Valentine. And the Blues calling out the bullies. Michael Voss lashes critics of Carlton's handling of Elijah Hollins. The disability community is deeply concerned by the scale of the government's dramatic plans to cut the cost of the National Disability Insurance Scheme. State and territory governments have spoken out about the expectation they'll take more responsibility for providing disability support. The government says the changes are necessary to keep the scheme viable into the future.
Jared uses supports funded by the NDIS to go to work and attend doctor's appointments.
And to do normal basic stuff like shopping and groceries so I can feed the family.
That support might be reduced. Without it, he's worried he'll become isolated. The federal government announced sweeping changes to the scheme yesterday, including cuts to funding for social and community participation. That currently costs $12 billion. The government wants to bring that down to $9.5 billion. One senator has a different idea.
Tax the gas companies, make the wealthy 1% pay their fair share and the big corporations, and actually fund services that people need.
The government promised an extra $200 million for disability services outside the scheme. But many of the cuts will leave states and territories picking up the bill. They're being asked to support 160,000 participants who will be moved off the scheme, including through a new program for some autistic children.
We've got to be honest with the public and say it won't be like-for-like services provided by the state because we don't have the resources to do it.
Some states were sympathetic.
That sense of urgency needs to be replicated with the backup systems that are invested in, foundational supports and otherwise, so that some of the burden can come off the NDIS.
Others still to be convinced.
The Albanese government has allowed fraudsters, criminals, rauders to take over a system that existed for our most vulnerable.
Now all of a sudden the states are going, well, we don't have those services anymore. The federal government can't just shift this problem to the states.
The federal government remains confident.
Governments just have to get on with this. This thing has been hanging around for too long.
This isn't about politics, it's not about argy-bargy. This is about getting it right for the sort of care that people deserve.
There's a strong sense among disabled people they are being used as political footballs. The government today reassured participants no one will be moved off the scheme until they are confident other support systems are in place. Naz Campanella, ABC News.
Angry firefighters have faced off against the Victorian government over funding for the Country Fire Authority. This year's budget will pour $365 million into fire services, but volunteers say it'll barely scratch the surface.
No hot water, no change rooms and nowhere to clean fire gear. This is where the Axe Creek CFA Brigade calls home.
We're struggling to attract newer members. We've got not a lot to offer them.
Axe Creek was on the front line of this summer's bushfires at Harcourt. It's also one of several fire stations to once again miss out on crucial upgrades, despite their local member being the Premier.
It's our truck, it's our people, our members that will be going and defending her home.
This year's budget includes $26 million for upgrading stations at other locations, such as Lakes Entrance, Beveridge and Charlton. $217 million will go towards purchasing heavy tankers, upgrading vehicles and conducting more planned burns. And $100 million will go to new CFA tankers and pumpers, but that will be spread over 10 years.
There is a regular pipeline here that CFA can plan for.
It's not just a one-hit wonder in terms of manufacture, and that will drive down prices.
Just months from the state election, community anger over CFA funding is red hot.
It's really good that you're doing it, but it's election year. Why weren't you doing it 4 years ago and previous?
CFA Captain Michael Shea today confronting the Emergency Services Minister. He says more than 800 fire trucks are currently ageing or out of date.
They've known for many years that their funding's not enough, and a bit emotional. It's frustrating.
Adding fuel to the fire is the government's controversial emergency services levy. So far, it's raised $1.6 billion, but when fully rolled out, we'll see farmers, many of whom are CFA volunteers, face significant tax hikes.
The fund is there to give us certainty and to give our emergency services that funding certainty.
In Victoria's southwest, Barongarook West's CFA brigade will be getting an upgrade. The station has no drinking water.
Waiting to see if it comes to fruition. So it's only going to be good for us if it does come in.
Volunteers across the state are hoping not to get burned. Leanne Wong, ABC News.
A teenage passenger on an electric motorbike has died after a crash in Melbourne's northern suburbs. The 17-year-old driver of the bike survived the crash, but it's prompted a warning about the dangers of the illegal high-powered vehicles.
All around Australia and in Melbourne, the increasing availability of unlawful, fast, high-powered electric motorbikes is ending in scenes like this.
The vehicle that we were talking about last night is capable of going 90 kilometres per hour, and it's in the hands of children.
A 15-year-old boy died. He was the passenger on an illegal electric motorcycle which crashed into 2 cars in South Morang. He was not wearing a helmet.
A young person's future's been taken from them.
The 17-year-old driver, who was wearing a helmet, was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries and will be interviewed by police.
Now, it was powered by an electric motor, but it was an illegal motorcycle that is incapable of being registered in Victoria.
E-bikes are only legal in Victoria if they have a motor that cuts off after 25 kilometres per hour, functioning pedals and a power output of less than 250 watts. People found driving overpowered e-bikes or electric motorbikes can be charged with road offences, but those rules aren't stopping an influx of high-speed accidents ending up at Victoria's hospitals.
A really severe head trauma is the most common serious injury that we see. When it doesn't cause death, then there can be severe, lifelong, ongoing effects of it.
Victoria Police today admitted it's a problem they're struggling with.
It is not something that we're going to police and enforce our way out of. This is something that we need the support of the community to address as an issue to protect our young people.
In Queensland, there's a proposal to ban e-bikes for under 16s and require registration for high-powered ones.
We need regulation, but wise regulation. All states really should do this in lockstep.
So we can make all the laws we like. If you don't follow them, there'll be consequences.
In the meantime, a plea to parents to do their bit.
I would ask all parents to be vigilant about this is not a fun toy.
Kate Ashton, ABC News, Melbourne.
3 teenagers have been charged over an alleged stabbing southeast of Melbourne last Friday. An 18-year-old man was treated for stab wounds and a 16-year-old boy was assaulted in the attack outside a business at Eaton Mall in Oakley. 2 17-year-old boys and a 14-year-old boy have been charged with a number of offences, including intentionally causing serious injury, violent disorder and assault with a weapon. 2 of the boys have also been charged with committing an indictable offence while on bail. Police believe the groups involved were known to each other. Australia is diversifying its fuel supplies as uncertainty in the Middle East continues. With no sign of an imminent reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says the government is continuing to work on contingency plans, sourcing fuel from different suppliers, including the US, Argentina and Algeria. Mr Albanese confirmed fuel supplies in the country remained secure.
Australia's fuel supply outlook remains secure in the near term. However, we're working hard to prepare for contingencies in the event of supply disruptions in fuel and in fertiliser.
Iran has seized 2 ships in the Strait of Hormuz, intensifying its assault on shipping in the strategic waterway. The attacks came a day after the US president extended a ceasefire while maintaining an American blockade of Iranian ports.
Tensions rising once more in the Strait of Hormuz. Video broadcast on Iranian state TV purportedly showing soldiers boarding container ships with rifles drawn. Iran's forces seizing the Panama-flagged MSC Francesca and Liberian-registered Epaminondas. Their crews accused of operating without permits and tampering with navigation systems, while a third vessel, the Euphoria, was reportedly fired upon. It's the first time Iran has captured ships since the war began. Surprisingly, the White House is not labelling it a violation of the truce.
These were not U.S. ships. These were not Israeli ships. These were two international vessels.
The US blockade of Iranian ports remains in place. Iran's top negotiator writing that a complete ceasefire only makes sense if it's not violated by that maritime blockade. And as a result, the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz is impossible.
Our enemy remains untrustworthy, is continuing to break its promises, and has not entered negotiations seriously.
Donald Trump's decision to indefinitely extend this ceasefire has done little to change the position of either country. Shipping traffic through the Strait of Hormuz remains at a standstill, and there are few signs of progress towards a second round of peace talks. Pakistan's Prime Minister has been meeting with Iran's ambassador in a bid to bring the two sides to the negotiating table. But in Islamabad, security arrangements in place for meetings between the US and Iran are being dismantled. While in Tehran, uncertainty about the future prevails.
We should know where we stand. Is it going to be a ceasefire, peace, or is the war going to continue?
With no deadline for discussions in sight. Matthew Doran, ABC News, Jerusalem.
ABC broadcaster and musician James Valentine, who for decades fronted radio and television programs, has died aged 64. Valentine used voluntary assisted dying at home 2 years after being diagnosed with cancer. He's being remembered as a pioneer of modern talkback radio and a companion to countless listeners. Gavin Coote takes a look back at his life and career.
You get a year's worth of salt from...
James Valentine mastered the art of warmth and whimsical.
Thanks for that, Josh. Gee, that's my lunch tomorrow. That is my lunch tomorrow. Vegemite and a salt and vinegar chip.
Glad it is for you. For more than 25 years, his afternoons radio show was a staple of Sydney life.
Tell me about music that's meant a lot to you at a particular point in your life.
Before radio, Valentine was already a familiar figure in showbiz as a member of the rock band Models. A media career then beckoned, fronting an afternoon children's show.
I'm James Valentine, and every weekday from 5 to 6:30, I'll be here to bring you 90 minutes of unbeatable television.
He soon became a trusted voice on radio, where many of his fans learned of his passing.
We're setting aside our regular programming for this morning because we have some very sad news to share with you. James Valentine has died.
We're going to miss him so much. He's just remarkable.
He always left me feeling uplifted after I'd listened to him on the radio.
I think he invented this brand of talkback radio where he literally came into the studio and made the audience his co-star, his co-host.
In his final days, James Valentine had been awarded the Order of Australia.
So he knew the community in Australia really regarded him as someone who should be on our honour roll.
He is someone who was engaging to talk with and who Australians listened to and trusted.
He's survived by his wife Joanne and their 2 children.
Obviously everyone knows that he was such a kind man and so generous and compassionate, but he was just such a great dad as well.
This period has just been like one of kind of pure joy with him and love.
All right. James Valentine retired earlier this year to focus on his treatment for cancer in the abdomen.
The relationship's very, very strong. People walk up to me and just start talking like they're my best friend. They are my best friend. They've known me for 15 years, or they've been listening for a decade. They've been listening for the whole lot. So you have to sort of, you have to really honour and respect that relationship. It's a friendship.
A voice across generations of wit and empathy.
And award-winning Australian author, poet and playwright David Malouf has died at age 92. The Brisbane-born writer published his debut novel Jono in 1975. He went on to become a towering literary figure, winning the prestigious Miles Franklin Award and the Commonwealth Writers' Prize. His work spread across fiction, non-fiction, poetry and plays, which made a significant impact on Australian literature. A memorial service will take place later in the year. A young actor suing Rebel Wilson has given details in a Sydney court about an alleged incident at Bondi, where she ended up in a bath with an influential movie producer. Rebel Wilson claims Charlotte McGuinness changed her story about the incident to save her career, but Miss McGuinness is claiming she's been defamed.
An emerging actress taking on her film's director, Hollywood star Rebel Wilson. Charlotte McGuinness is the lead in Rebel Wilson's movie, The Deb.
This town is where feminism has come to die.
The actress claims Ms Wilson defamed her by saying she was sexually harassed by one of the movie's producers, and then suggesting she walked back the allegations in exchange for acting jobs.
Do you have anything to say after today?
Ms McGuinness has told the court the producer, Amanda Ghost, had a medical reaction to cold water at Bondi in September 2023. She says she ran Ms Ghost a shower and got in a nearby bath before Ms Ghost eventually joined her. Defence lawyer Dawood Sibtain argued Ms McGuinness told Rebel Wilson the incident made her uncomfortable, a claim Ms McGuinness denies. The reason you got in the bath is because she invited you to get in the bath. That's true, isn't it? Mr Sibtain asked. No, Ms McGuinness replied. I never made a complaint to Ms Wilson. Ms Wilson's lawyers claim the young actress changed her story because she was scared of losing Ms Ghost's support. The court heard Ms Ghost took Ms McGuinness to Cannes Film Festival in 2023, where she performed for the boss of Warner Music Group aboard his private super yacht. At this time, did you pause to think your dreams were coming true? Mr Sibtain asked Ms McGuinness. Yes, she replied. Did you reflect that it had all started with Amanda Ghost and the faith that she'd shown in you? To a degree, yes.
Charlotte McGuinness's evidence coincides with the release of her second song today. Rebel Wilson's lawyers have suggested that that was intentional, but Charlotte McGuinness's agent has told the court it's not the sort of publicity that she wants. Rebel Wilson is due to give evidence here next week. Isabel Rowe, ABC News, Sydney.
Microsoft will invest $25 billion in data centres in Australia in the next 3 years. Speaking in Sydney, the tech giant's CEO, Satya Nadella, said it'll boost processing capabilities and businesses here would get access to newer and more powerful AI models. It's expanding contracts with the federal government to boost Australia's cybersecurity defences and training 3 million Australians on its AI platforms in the next couple of years.
To be able to get ahead of all of the jobs and the economic opportunity that gets created, I think it's going to be very, very important for all of us, including Microsoft, to do the work to bring the skilling and the upskilling that is required.
To finance now, and markets are charting records despite global instability. Daniel Ziffer explains.
Most observers would see the Middle East chaos choking off vital energy sources and substances like fertiliser and think, that looks dicey. Markets are looking at it differently. 2 of the 3 key US indices touched records, just as they did in South Korea and Japan. Japan's Nikkei index fell a bit by the end of trading. That's even as the price of a barrel of oil rose again. Our Aussie dollar span its wheels. The moves were less than 0.1%. Let's call that stable. Closer to home, record low vacancies, but growth in the cost of rental properties was uneven and slower. That sounds like good news for renters, except researchers think the reason is that they've hit the upper level of what they can afford. They can't absorb more. On the share market, there was no bounce for medical innovator Cochlear, which dropped 40% of its value yesterday. And with electric vehicles now making up almost 15% of new cars sold, the energy market operators trying to work out how much juice we'll need to keep the fleet rolling. AEMO sees EV charging using more than 2% of what it calls the National Electricity Market, or NEM, essentially everyone bar the Northern Territory and Western Australia, by the end of the decade. Meaning we'll need to keep slapping on the home batteries and the big industrial ones to deal with the looming closure of 2 almost 50-year-old coal plants by 2028. And that's finance.
Coming up on 7:30 with Sarah Ferguson, the interpreter who risked everything to help Australian troops in Afghanistan recognised this Anzac Day.
They didn't like interpreters at all. They would treat them as an infidel.
Not only are they on the front line providing support, but they're also taking a risk in their own communities as well.
I'm going to go there. I'm living in a safe country. I'm living peacefully.
To sport now, and Carlton coach Michael Voss has labelled the criticism of his club's handling of Elijah Hollands as bullying. Hollands was struggling with his mental health during last week's game against Collingwood, and the AFL is yet to release findings from its investigation into why he was playing.
Loyalty and tenacity have been trademarks of Michael Voss's 34 years in the AFL, and today he was typically staunch.
We've unfortunately, rather than make this a private challenge, we've made this a public event.
The coach had no updates on the investigation into Elijah Hollands' fitness to play last week, but he did take aim at those who would criticise Carlton.
The commentary, the conversation, the ball-by-ball play, we've unfortunately made it at that. And in some ways, like, I'll be really honest, it's felt like a bordering on bullying.
Who do you think is being bullied, Mike? Who's being bullied?
I think our people have been bullied, and I think we bully for outcomes.
Elijah Hollands has previously spoken about his mental health challenges. Last week, the club admitted it knew he was struggling in the game against Collingwood. He was kept on the ground for more than half the match. But Voss says the 23-year-old has always been well supported.
We are being really judgmental with knowing little facts, without understanding history and background, and we've drawn our own outcomes.
The coach has welcomed the AFL addressing questions of resources and processes for supporting players on game day.
This is an industry conversation, and the healthy conversation will be how we support our people in an environment that absolutely demands so much from our people. And having a healthy respect between what you need to report on the game and what we need to provide in our environment to our players. But I won't solve that here. I just won't.
Carlton has provided the league with its insight and will await any findings and recommendations. Paul Kennedy, ABC News.
St Kilda forward Lance Collard has had his suspension for using a homophobic slur during a VFL match downgraded to 4 weeks at the AFL Appeals Board. Alexia Pesce is at AFL House following the hearing. Lex, what's the latest?
Good evening to you, Alex. So the St Kilda Football Club has managed to downgrade the suspension to 4 weeks, that is from 9 weeks, but the charge has been upheld. They were arguing that 9-week suspension was too harsh on Lance Collard's future as a player and as a person. The AFL originally disagreed, but the St Kilda Football Club argued at the time of the incident, the Frankston player wasn't offended by the slur, nor did the AFL's the microphone warned by the umpire pick up what actually happened. That means it's too far from what the conduct unbecoming rule actually addresses. So the charge has now been downgraded to 4 weeks, that is from 9 weeks. Now Collard, through this whole thing, has emphatically denied he ever used the slur. He even signed a statutory declaration form. So tomorrow morning, Ross Lyon will address the media. He'll no doubt have his say, but this case will set a precedence going forward in the AFL. Now here tonight at Docklands, it is the Bulldogs and the Swans who open round 7. The Dogs are celebrating their 10-year anniversary of when they won that drought-breaking flag. They did it from 7th. It's something no doubt Luke Beveridge, the coach, will use this week for motivation. His side has been hit by so many injuries, including to captain Marcus Bontempelli, who during this week was under an injury cloud. He was on light duties on Tuesday's main session. There was rumours he may have to pass a fitness test. That is out the window. The captain will play in tonight's match. For the Sydney Swans, they've made 3 changes. They haven't travelled to Melbourne with superstar midfielder Isaac Heaney. That is their only blow, but the Bulldogs have one mighty task ahead of them this evening. That match gets underway inside the next 10 minutes. Alex?
OK, Alexia Pesce, thank you. 596 days after his last game, Suns forward Jamarra Ugle-Hagan will make his long-awaited return to football against the Hawks on Saturday. Coach Damien Hardwick announced the club debut to the team this morning. The coach has said the former #1 pick needed to earn his spot in the side. And after consistent performances in the VFL, he's done enough. Ugle-Hagan joined Gold Coast over the summer after battling off-field issues during his time at the Bulldogs. Forward Michaela Leonard will break the record for the most capped Wallaroos player in the Anzac Day Test against New Zealand on the Sunshine Coast. Leonard will be making her 47th appearance, which will go past the mark previously set by Ash Masters. The Wallaroos will be trying to beat the Black Ferns. Leonard says she's grateful to reach her milestone in the first Anzac Day matchup between the two teams.
I came into rugby at a really fortunate time when the game was growing, professionalism was increasing, we started playing more test matches. It's a huge honour to wear this jersey once and to wear it 46 times and to have been given that opportunity more than anyone. It's really humbling.
The strains of The Last Post will be ringing out at Anzac Day services across the country this weekend. And for one man, playing the tune has become a daily ritual. Adam Farquharson visits a different war grave each day, working on his bugle skills whilst honouring those who gave their lives.
Well, a lot of them, it says lest we forget on the bottom of the headstone, and at least I'm not going to forget. If they've had relatives, if they're maybe the last of their line, there's nobody left to sort of come and see them, and I don't want them to be forgotten. Once they get to the grave, stand there at attention, play the last post, recite the ode, play Reveille. I normally practice from Australia Day up to Anzac Day. 2024 I did the same thing, came up to the cemetery every day to practice. Well, once I got to Anzac Day after Australia Day practicing, I thought, well, why stop? And I got a bit of an understanding of how many graves are actually up here. If I'm here with the kids, I'll ask them which driveway we go to. If I'm out of town, I pick the first grave that I see. Normally one of the white war graves, they stand out pretty well. I put a poppy rock on there, so a little black rock. My daughters and I paint these. I do this mainly to try and contain the nerves, and it kind of works. It was absolutely terrifying, but being able to play the last post at Dad's and both my grandfather's funerals was a massive honour. That's Dad and his greens. I've sort of started my own tradition. I just want to keep practicing. These people gave a lot. It's giving back to them, making sure that if they are around, that they are remembered.
To the weather, and it remained dry overnight with some early fog about parts of Gippsland. It was coldest in Omeo, minus 0.8 degrees, and warmest at Wilson's Prom, 15. That fog did clear, making way for generally sunny skies across the state today and above average temperatures. The highest daytime max was 28 degrees at Port Fairy, getting down to 12 degrees at Mount Buller. In Melbourne, it remained dry and sunny until late afternoon when we started to see some smoke haze creep in from controlled burns. A top of 26 degrees in the city, 25 for Geelong and Frankston, 27 in Laverton. It's 19 degrees in the city right now. Interstate today, Hobart had showers. It was cloudy in Sydney and sunny in Brisbane, Adelaide and Darwin. The satellite image is showing a large cloud band over Western Australia and low cloud over the coasts of New South Wales and Queensland. A high-pressure ridge is strengthening over the state. The ridge will slowly drift into the Tasman Sea over the coming days. There'll be showers and storms over parts of WA and coastal New South Wales and Queensland. For the capital cities, Brisbane will have showers. It'll be cloudy in Sydney and sunny in Adelaide, Hobart and Darwin. Back home, it'll be a warm day. Expect possible areas of smoke haze again with controlled fuel reduction burns, 27 in Mildura and Swan Hill, Horsham and Echuca, 25. There'll be patchy morning fog mainly in the valleys in the east before a mostly sunny day across the state. Bairnsdale and Sale 24, Albury Wodonga 23. On the bay, 10 to 15 knot northerlies will decrease to about 10 knots, waves below 1 metre. Friday in Melbourne, a bit of smoke haze to start with, ahead of a mostly sunny afternoon and a top of 24, down to 13 tonight. And looking ahead, sunny 25 on Saturday, Sunday 25, Monday cloud clearing 23, Tuesday sunny 27, slightly cooler on Wednesday, and Thursday sunny 25 degrees. And that is it for this evening's bulletin. Stay with us now for 7:30.
Welcome to the program. Tonight, the scale of the NDIS overhaul, an Afghan interpreter recognised for helping Australian soldiers, and the scandal disrupting UK politics. First to Queensland, where the limits of new hate speech laws are being tested. Activists have been staging protests, daring police to charge them over the use of banned slogans. Tom Hartley reports.